Welcome in the latest episode of the Five on the Floor podcast on the 5 Reasons Sports Network. I'm Ethan Skolnick. I'm going to be joined by Alphonse Sidney today. Make sure to check out 5reasonsports.com. We're posting this episode in the afternoon. We did another episode last night, Alex Toledo and I did. We decided to redo this one because we had some technical issues. But one thing you should definitely do is check out our website today. We've got a merchandise sale, 10% off everything in the store, all our Heat stuff, Dolphin stuff, Panther stuff. We got some Kane stuff in there. Go check all of that out. We've even got some 5 on the Floor logo shirts. Why? Because 10% off the entire day using the promo code Giannis. You've got to spell it correctly. That's on you, not me. Giannis21. Giannis21. Why is that the code? We'll talk about that on the episode. But before we do, I want to tell you about one of the great sponsors of the 5 Reasons Sports Network and the 5 on the Floor podcast, Cervani Men's Custom Clothier. If it's frustrating to shop for dress clothes because you can't find the right fit, color, or style, or maybe you feel like you never know what to wear or how to wear it, if you've got a wedding, a special event coming up, or you just wear professional attire daily, that's why you've got to go see Blanca over at Cervani Men's Custom Clothier. That's in South Miami, her private showroom located right across from Sunset Place on Red Road. Cervani has been designing fine custom-made clothing in South Miami for over 30 years. Your custom-made suits, pants, shirts, and shoes will fit you just the way you like. So schedule a private consultation with Blanca to start looking your best and get the benefit of a female's perspective on men's fashion. Give her a call at 305-310-2085. 305-310-2085. Nothing fits like custom-tailored clothes. Stop buying off the rack. And now, today's episode.
Welcome to 5 on the Floor, a Miami Heat and NBA podcast from Ethan Skolnick with Alphonse Sidney, a.k.a. Alf954. Brought to you by the 5 Reasons Sports Network.
All right, Ethan Skolnick back with Alphonse Sidney. Like I said, make sure to check out the episode that I did with Alex Toledo reviewing the Heat's 2 wins over the weekend against Dallas and Brooklyn, and also a little bit of a Justice Winslow nugget in there. Before we get to today's episode, we did decide to bring Alphonse Sidney back. There was some conversation that Alex and I had when Alf left for the weekend to Colombia, where we didn't know if he was coming back, but also because the great Chef Trilly basically shook up all of NBA Twitter with his post about how Andre Iguodala said Duncan Robinson was the greatest shooter he's ever played with. And somehow, we're going to have Trilly on the pod. He's been to some of our watch parties. That somehow that got CJ McCollum and Lou Williams, and then finally Andre Iguodala to comment on it. Andre says he says some crazy stuff, but nothing that crazy. Alf, were you concerned that because of Chef Trill, I mean, you're the Heat Twitter president, but you've never done that. That we might actually.
No, Trilly's the best at that.
Yes,
I was concerned about getting fired on my day off because I would just be weird.
Yes.
Also, I didn't like the fact that I had to be replaced with another black guy. Felt that was weird.
No, we do, but I mean, well, like I said, unlike a lot of the other media outlets, we actually are diverse. We like to keep that going. So. Oh,
that's true. That's true.
I mean, if we need a quote, it would be of sort of white non-Jewish males, like that.
Yeah, we need more of those in the network.
We need more of those. We don't have a lot of
Simon
those.
Clancy, and that's it. So.
Yeah, that's it. And he's a good liberal. Yeah, I don't know. There's not a lot of those, right? I mean, we had more of my type before. Some of them left. But yeah, we have a lot of Hispanic, Latino, a lot of African Americans, a lot of yourself.
We look like Miami.
Yeah,
so that's a good thing.
We look like Miami. So yeah, obviously I would continue to diversify our portfolio, even if you left. But yes, you're back. I don't really want to know about your trip. The less I know about Colombia, the better. But
that'll be on Light Skin Opinions. We'll cover that one.
Exactly. We don't need to get into that. Today, we're going to just focus on today is Giannis 2021. That's our focus. But before we do, I've got one kind of news nugget that I had done on the previous podcast, but it didn't make the cut because of the technical issues we had. And it was something I heard about Duncan Robinson. Now, we did a lot of praising of Kendrick Nunn in the last pod, Alf, because I feel like not enough of that has been done. I feel like we've been guilty of that at times. He's shooting about 56%, averaging close to 20 points a game since the All-Star break. So, since he got healthy, I know that his opponents are probably shooting the same, but he's been really good offensively, and he's been a really great find. But I kind of have been shopping this question around Heat circles and agent circles the past couple weeks, which is, if you look at who the Heat's untouchables are, who would you put in that category? And, of course, Bam is first, and Tyler Hero is second. But I can tell you definitively from conversations I've had that Duncan Robinson is third and is getting closer to second. So I think that is that a disparagement of Kendrick Nunn? No. Do they value Kendrick Nunn? Absolutely. But I want to give you a little backstory on this. And the reason why I think this. First thing, does that surprise you? That in terms of trade talks of the future, that they would prioritize keeping Robinson over Nunn?
Not at all. I mean, and I've been telling people like crazy to follow Simon Sperling. You guys had him on the show. The numbers that he's put up this year are historic, like literally historic. And when you see the gap between what he's done and what some of the best players in the league history, Damian Lillard, Steph Curry, like what he's done compared to what they've done, like the gap is just huge. We're talking about games of 3 or more 3-pointers, 5 or more 3-pointers, fastest to 200 threes, and what he does for their offense. Now, defensively, we can talk about that all day, but if you look at his net rating, you look at his plus minus, what he does for the offense is so huge. Even when he doesn't shoot the ball, like the spacing he creates, the gravity that he creates, like he helps their offense run so much more smoothly. And he's such a good offensive player that he kind of overcompensates and makes up for the lack of defense. And I know I'm going to get hate on this, I don't think he's their worst defensive player. And I think that's been a little bit overblown because I think he gets attacked a lot, but he is not their worst defensive player. There are other guys on the floor right now that literally they can't stay in front of anybody. So, yeah, no, it doesn't surprise me at all. And, I'm one of Duncan Robinson's biggest fans right now. One of my favorite things on the broadcast is just waiting for him to hit his first three to hear how long the streak is, waiting for him to hit his second three to hear how long that streak is. Like, it's just fascinating to watch him this year, to think that he's an undrafted guy out of Michigan that literally couldn't get on the floor last year.
Yeah, it is amazing. But here's why they value him more. And it's all the things you're talking about, but also it is about investment, right? He's their investment. Okay. He's something that they've built from the ground up, essentially. Kendrick Nunn's a little different. Kendrick Nunn was picked up on the last day of the season. So first thing, they did like him. Part of it, though, they were trying to get under the tax. And when they signed Rodney McGruder, or got rid of Rodney McGruder, right? Waived Rodney McGruder. But the other thing was they needed a non-guaranteed contract. And I can tell you that when they signed him, that the folks around Jimmy Butler took that as a sign that the Heat would be coming after Jimmy Butler. Do you know why that is?
No.
Okay.
When they signed Kendrick Nunn, you're saying that.
Yes, because basically it had kind of become known that the Heat were interested in Jimmy. We knew that, right? They'd already, down the road potentially, and that potentially if Jimmy ever wanted to get to Miami, there were going to need to be some non-guaranteed contracts that were thrown in, okay, to make a deal work. Remember when David Griffin, basically to create room for LeBron, picked up some non-guaranteed contracts in return for guaranteed contracts? Remember in 2014? This was kind of looked at as a similar thing, that basically you're picking up some non-guaranteed contracts. So if you need to do a sign and trade, you can do a sign and trade. Okay. So that was part of the thinking there. It was a little bit of a signal that they were going to be coming after Jimmy. So the thought process was Kendrick Nunn might be included in that trade, just to make a deal work. The intention wasn't always to keep him, you're saying. Correct. Now, I think they liked him, but again, he's not their investment, right? Like, he wasn't in their G League program. He was in Golden State's G League program. So this is a different deal. It's not the same as what you were looking at with Duncan Robinson, where this has been somebody they've been sort of developing from the ground up. And so, again, they like Kendrick Nunn. They value Kendrick Nunn. They're not going to give Kendrick away for nothing. He's got an incredible contract. We talked about that. But Duncan Robinson is viewed as a perfect core piece to put with Jimmy Butler. He is as the size, as a shooter. Now, does he have to become a better defender? Absolutely. But what I'm telling you is this was part of the consideration, in terms of some of the trades they were looking at, during this break, was that Duncan was not going to be on the table any more than Bam was going to be on the table or Hero was going to be on the table, but none was discussed. That's my understanding. Discussed, and that's gotten out. I mean, Oklahoma City, there was some talk there. I can tell you Oklahoma City wanted Crowder. I still don't think that's the reason the deal broke down. It was more about Gallinari and years. So basically, that's what played into some of this was, Oklahoma City did want Crowder instead of maybe Solomon Hill being sent out there or maybe James Johnson being repackaged out there, but none was discussed. But Duncan Robinson is not someone who's going to be discussed. So I think we need to change the way we think of him. He's viewed as a core piece of this team with Bam, with Hero, with Jimmy. Duncan's the fourth. Now, who else? Do they re-sign Dragic? Do they re-sign DJJ? Do they re-sign Myers Leonard? We'll see. But I'm just telling you, those are the core pieces. We're going to talk about Giannis here the entire rest of the episode. Before we do that, I want to tell you about another great sponsor, the 5 Reasons Sports Network, the Seltzer Mayberg Law Firm. It's onecalllegal.com, onecalllegal.com. Make sure you spell it out. They've got it somewhere there. 24 hours a day to handle just about any case, immigration, traffic tickets. You've got a sports law question. They've gotten into that as well. Personal injury, slip and fall. They handle everything at the Seltzer Mayberg Law Firm. They're right there in North Miami, right before the Golden Glades, just south of the Golden Glades on I-95 or right off of I-95. If they're right on I-95, you might have more accidents to attend to. They're right next to I-95. You can actually see I-95 from the offices. And again, like I told you, they got great people there, whether it's David, whether it's Mendy, whether it's Joe, whether it's Eric. All of them are down there at the office, and they can handle all of your concerns. So it's the Seltzer Mayberg Law Firm, onecalllegal.com. All right, welcome back to the 5 on the Floor podcast. And now we're going to get to the topic everybody wants to talk about, and we've been pushing this. And, yeah, there's a little bit of, I don't know, what would you say, Alf? Have we gone overboard with the Giannis Bam 2021 stuff?
I mean, I don't know if it's overboard. Okay, let me be honest. Yeah, it is overboard. We love transactions more than what's actually going on. And you heard me complain about that in the past, but I understand the attraction to it. I understand the interest in it. You know how I am. Me personally, I'd rather talk about the games, but it is something. I mean, the thing is, it's the elephant in the room because you can see the way that they're maneuvering their cap and they're maneuvering everything they do around 2021. So it's kind of hard to even talk about what's going on the court without talking about the reasons they can't make this move or that move, and it all centers around that one free agency summer.
Right. And so, look, it's a long way off, right? And a lot of stuff can happen. And Milwaukee is really damn good, which is obviously something we're probably going to learn tonight.
They're 52-8.
Well, they're historically good. Like defensively, they're historically good. It's not just the record. Like what they're doing in this era where it's so impossible to stop anybody and they're stopping everybody is unique. And Chris Middleton has taken a leap to be a legitimate number 2 this year. I didn't know that he was. I give credit to Nekias Duncan for being early on that. But look, Chris Middleton was not this player the past couple of years. He's been better. Okay, now will this hold up in the playoffs? Will Eric Bledsoe bleep the bed again in the playoffs? We don't know, but they've been really good. They've overcome the loss of Brogdon. So we're really going to handle this 3 different ways while we encourage you to go get a Giannis Bam 2021 shirt from the website. 10% off today. Use the code Giannis21. But anyway, first way is, why would Giannis leave Milwaukee? And here's the case that I've made, and we'll handle this quickly, but the case I had made was that it was kind of LeBron 2.0. He was in a city that's not traditionally a big, draw to free agents, not a place that they necessarily wanted to go. And so I said the best player he'd ever get next to him was Chris Middleton. And now that doesn't look so bad. But at the time it was LeBron, it was Mo Williams. And although Giannis has acted like he doesn't care about the noise, eventually it gets to everybody. And it certainly got to LeBron, obviously, who was more scrutinized than Giannis. But it was around this time that LeBron kind of got sick of hearing it, not winning a championship. And so Giannis is going to be a little over 26, almost 27 by the time that he's a free agent. And LeBron was 25 and change, okay, at the time he was a free agent. So about the same age. And my case was, okay, if he doesn't win big in Milwaukee, particularly if they have these great regular seasons, and look, LeBron had great regular seasons. They won 66 games one year. I don't know how he did it with that roster, but it wasn't enough that Giannis might look to leave. What do you think the chances are that he would look to leave? If they win a championship, Alf, is it a done deal? He's not leaving. How do you think that plays out?
I think if they win a championship, he's not leaving because I think he does like Milwaukee. He likes that community. They've embraced him, obviously. Like, he's so beloved there. And he doesn't seem like a flashy kind of guy. I mean, I feel like the Milwaukee life could be a nice, simple life. I mean, it might be something that's attractive to him. I don't understand it because I live in Miami. Why would I ever understand why anyone would live in Milwaukee? But that's if they win. Now, if he spends the next 2 years knocking his head against the wall, a la LeBron, winning MVPs but not being able to get out of the Eastern Conference Finals, even maybe making a finals but losing to like a juggernaut team who has two legit superstars. I know Chris Middleton is a solid number 2, but is he Paul George? Is he Anthony Davis? Is he, and are those guys ever going to come to Milwaukee? And after 2 years of beating his head against the wall, he might say, you know what, I can never win big here. Mm-hmm. And he might be right, because if they can't attract that second guy and they can't beat these other super teams, basically, and Golden State's going to be back next year. Brooklyn is going to be really good next year. So if they don't win it this year, there's no guarantees that he'll win in Milwaukee. And if he doesn't, and that frustration builds up and people start talking about Giannis can't win the big one, I can see him making a move.
Yeah, the same thing. And like I said, we always talk about how a guy won't leave and he loves the place he's at, right? But LeBron left a place that he was born 30 minutes from. Giannis has no hereditary ties to Milwaukee. I mean, he just was drafted there and they embraced him. And he's a great dude, okay? Like first time I interviewed him his rookie year, I was sort of taken aback by how innocent he was. And everybody has good things to say about him. Okay, he stuck up for his coaches in a way LeBron has not. I mean, the way he stuck up for Jason Kidd, etc. He's a great dude. Okay, and so maybe he does feel this loyalty to Milwaukee and to win one for them. But it gets to everyone. Okay, you don't have to be Anthony Davis with an itch to want to leave, or Kyrie Irving. Eventually, guys, they get tired of a place, or they get tired of being told they can't win. It happened to Durant, and so I do think that there's a chance he leaves if it looks to him like we just don't have enough, and I want to have enough to be able to win in my prime. All right, so the second part of this, Alf, is a little more complex, which is if he leaves, where would he go? Okay, so the three teams, and I don't know if we're the ones that are putting the heat in here, because I feel like nationally others are not as much until recently. I guess Stephen A. and some others have kind of thrown Giannis into I've said repeatedly, I felt like the Heat were building a team for Giannis to love. Shooters everywhere, some cheap players around him, a tough guy in Jimmy Butler who he could trust, particularly down the stretch of games. Of course, down the stretch has not gone so well lately, but Jimmy has a certain attitude to him. But I also think he would slide over for Giannis, because I do think Jimmy wants to win. Obviously, the Bam connection. Bam is friends with everybody. He's next in terms of being the Heat's next great recruiter. And, of course, he shares an agent with Giannis. The only guy that Giannis seems to want to work out with in the entire league is Bam. He has this issue with working out with other players. He called it out again recently. He doesn't like that chummy stuff, which makes him a perfect Riley player, actually. But the one guy he seems to like is Bam Adebayo. But the other two teams I hear mentioned are Toronto and Dallas. Toronto, because it's an international city. He really likes Masai Ujiri. Like the Heat, they've got a history, a tradition of winning, particularly recently. And they have really good players there like Siakam and potentially Van Vliet and others that could surround him. They've got shooting. The other is Dallas, because Luka is, along with Giannis, one of the top 5 youngish players in the league, and is a perfect skill set fit for Giannis, like probably better fit than anybody else in the NBA. Dallas also, like Miami, has no state tax. It has pretty good weather, and recently hasn't been so good, but the owner does want to spend and does want to win typically. How do you handicap the Heat in that conversation?
It's tough because there's so many things could happen between now and then. With Toronto, if Masai leaves, right, what is the huge attraction to Toronto? A two-year older Kyle Lowry, I know, and then the Siakam thing, that connection is real. But if Ujiri leaves, to me, Ujiri is the linchpin of him going to Toronto. That makes the most sense. But historically, Toronto doesn't get free agents. Guys run from Toronto the second they can, for the most part, because of the taxes, because of just. But another thing, a lot of those guys are Americans that run from Toronto, and they just want to get back, to living the majority of their life back in the United States. For Giannis, that isn't the case, but the tax thing is real. And if Masai isn't there, I don't know what the attraction to Toronto is. Dallas never seems to land a big free agent. So as a Heat fan, I really wouldn't worry about them. But the Doncic thing, like you said, the Doncic thing is real, but they just don't have the history of landing the big free agents. They never seem to be able to close the deal. So I can understand. I could see why maybe I could understand the Doncic part of it, but beyond that, I don't see Dallas being that big of a player. So I think it's going to come down to Toronto, Miami, and I think maybe these LA teams even have a shot. And I feel like they used to be talked about more, and they just got stopped being talked about. But with Miami, you have an international city, you have Pat Riley, you have the whole culture thing, which he seems to fit perfectly into. And if Bam takes two more big leaps in the rest of the season, and then next year, he's going to be the main attraction to playing here, not Jimmy Butler. Which is, so now you would almost have a big three that you're talking about building in Miami. So to me, it would be, I would be looking at Miami or some of the LA or the LA teams, not as much Dallas or Toronto. But I'm probably wrong because, who knows, right?
Yeah, well, the question is, you look at the LA teams, the Lakers are always going to get mentioned, right? But I only think it's really possible, and I'd have to look at all the cap mechanics, but if they don't have Anthony Davis, right? Like LeBron didn't sign 1-and-1s to be flexible. He signed a 4-year deal. So I don't really know how you make that work. And I honestly, I don't know if Giannis, I feel like Giannis has a little Kawhi in him. I don't know that he wants to play with LeBron. Like, I feel like he's more one that would want to compete with LeBron than sign up with LeBron to kind of win LeBron. And not that LeBron's not still great. He still is. He's a top 3 MVP candidate this year, although Giannis, to me, is the unanimous MVP. But it's not that he's not still great, but it's just it doesn't feel like a Giannis move. As far as the Clippers go, I only see that happening if Kawhi leaves. Like, if he leaves and they replace him with Giannis, maybe. But the three of them together, him, Paul George, nobody would ever score against them. But I don't know. I don't see that either. So I think, to me, a team that might have made more sense if they could get out of cap hell, but they're never going to be able to now, is Houston. Except he hates Harden. He doesn't hate Harden, but he doesn't respect Harden.
Yeah, I don't see the Houston thing.
No, so I don't think that happens. I don't think it's going to be any of the bad teams with cap space. It's not going to be in Atlanta. It's not going to be a Charlotte. He's not going to leave that situation for one of those. Philadelphia's in cap hell. I don't see how Boston could create any space for him. You look out west, is he going to go to another smallish market like Denver or Utah? Probably not. OKC, why would he do that? You look at New Orleans to play with Zion. I'm looking at New Orleans roster last night. I'm like, wow, David Griffin's got a lot of pieces to play with, and he's going to need to make some trades because there's some pieces that don't fit very well. But to me, I think the Heat look at this landscape and they say, okay, why not us? Which is kind of the same thing Riley said in 2010 about this big three players. He's like, why wouldn't they want to play together for us? And I feel the Bam thing, I think, gives the Heat a big leg up.
I think the Bam thing is the biggest. Like I said, I think that's going to be the main attraction. And Giannis just seems like a smart player where he's not going to a poorly run franchise. And when you look around the NBA, there are not too many the number of well-run franchises that are going to have money that summer are just, they're not that many of them. I brought up the LA teams, but you're right. There's absolutely the cap situation. People can always figure things out, but does the cap situation work? Maybe does Golden State enter the picture at some point?
Mm-hmm. That's the one we should talk about. Okay, so that's the one we haven't talked about them. Now, Steph, I feel like part of the reason that Steph is coming back this year, and it's supposed to happen this week, right? It was supposed to happen already. Part of the reason that I think Steph is coming back this year is to kind of show that they're on the way back a little bit. And they'll get Clay back totally healthy. They've shut him down. They can make it work cap-wise. They would have to maneuver a little bit. They've got the Wiggins contract now to play with. But they believe they're getting him. So we should not discount Golden State. There is a track record of winning. There's no real reason they should be as bad as they are this year, except for, obviously, the ground fell from underneath them. And it feels to me a little bit, Alf, with them, like San Antonio when they got Duncan. Like, they were really, really good for a long time. Not as good as Golden State, but they were really good with David Robinson. And then everybody got hurt, and of course they shut everybody down and they tanked. Dominique Wilkins played like 75 games on a bad Achilles at age 38. And, I feel like that's kind of what's happened with Golden State this year, and they're going to get up very quickly. So they're going to be attractive to him. They got a beautiful new arena. They have what was a rabid fan base. They haven't really shown well this year in the new building with a bad team. And they've got, no matter what, they're going to have Steph and Clay. So I feel like that. And plus, I think it'll be safe for him to go there because it's not like Durant. It's not like joining a 73-win Warriors. It's winning a Warriors that's trying to reestablish itself. Like, I feel like that's a better narrative for Giannis. And I also think San Francisco is the kind of city that he fits in. So
that's an international city as well. Yeah. It's a beautiful place to play. Like, and those things factor into the NBA where they don't as much in other leagues because it's a winter sport. I mean, you're playing a lot of games in November, December, January, February where it's freezing, and Milwaukee can be a miserable place.
Yeah. No, that's
how come you're not mentioning the Knicks?
Let's move on. Well, they did his brother wrong, right? According to him. Like, if they ever had a chance, they don't have a chance now. It's just the worst. How are you that bad for that long? Like, I mean, some of these other organizations like Cleveland, Sacramento, like, I get it. Like, it's difficult, right? Like, but you're in New York. Like, all right, so let's get
James Dolan, and he won't sell the team.
Well, right, exactly. Just wants to play music. All right, the third part of this to close is, if you're the Heat, and we say you're kind of in the conversation, but there's other attractive options: Golden State, Dallas, staying in Milwaukee, Toronto, and maybe the LA team or another dark horse. Is it worth it to you, Alf, to hold the cap space in case, just to get in the room?
I don't think that's an easy question, but I don't think so. But it comes with caveats, right? If Bradley Beal is available, Victor Oladipo, like, there's guys out there that you could win with now with Jimmy, Bam, and a Beal. Jimmy, Bam, and like I said, Victor Oladipo. Like, there's going to be other guys available, and I think you go, like, if the whole league knows that you're going into the room with bad intentions, like, you don't really feel you're not gonna put your best offers out there because all you're doing is waiting for Giannis. I think that handicaps you a little bit. I think they have to just approach every disgruntled free agent, every trade scenario as it's on its own merits, and not put everything in the bag for 2021. Like, I think what they did with the whole Gallinari thing, I think that's smart. Mm-hmm. I don't think Gallinari is the kind of needle mover that makes it worth it to mess up what you've built over the last basically 6 months, going back into free agency. But yeah, I also don't think that putting all your eggs in one basket is ever the smart move, even though it worked out once in 2010. To think that it's just going to work out again, I think it's a little bit foolhardy.
Yeah, no, and I'm with you. I think, again, the Heat's whole idea is get in the room, and I think that's was our frustration with them, was they made moves to not get in the room the past couple of years, or to make it impossible once they were in the room, right? When you're in with a Kevin Durant and you got to kind of talk him into something that doesn't make sense, or LaMarcus Aldridge before that, or whatever. But I think the idea is, if the reason you're not in the room is because you've got Bradley Beal, averaging 32 a game for you, you feel a little better about not getting in the room, right? Like, and so to me, it has to be that level player. Like, it has to be, you're getting pieces to complete, a serious championship contender, one that can compete with a team that is led by Giannis, right? Whether Giannis is in Milwaukee or whether Giannis goes to Toronto, like, you need a type of team that's going to be able to compete. If you can't put that team together, then my view is you wait and you take your chances with him, or you move to plan B in 2021, which is Oladipo or Beal as a free agent, right? Or something else. But if your option is to get Beal this offseason, and like we've talked about, if you don't have to I think you're going to have to, but if you don't have to give up Hero, you don't have to, maybe you do have to give up Robinson. Maybe you do have to give up none. I think that's to me is a given that you would have to give up none. But whatever pieces you would have to give up to make that work. And again, like we talk about, like the Heat, like they're the only team that would be in on Bradley Beal. Like he's leading the league in scoring over the past couple months. Like, they're not going to be the only team in on Bradley Beal. So if that's going to get more challenging, if the Drew Holiday thing doesn't look right, if you don't think you're going to get Oladipo, I understand maybe you try to make more sort of incremental moves to get better, but I wouldn't make an incremental move to take you out of the room with Giannis.
The Gallo thing
doesn't make sense. That was an incremental move.
It's an incremental move, and it was going to be a good move,
right?
But if it ruined cap space, it just wasn't worth it.
No, I agree with you. And so that's where it's at. So anyway, check out the other podcasts we did where we recapped the weekend, looked a little bit ahead to the Milwaukee game. Alf, Alex, and I will all be at the game tonight. So we will get you a podcast tonight. We're going to be at Heat Bucks. So yeah, we're giving you a little bit more content. We ask that you subscribe and rate on iTunes if you're on iTunes, but subscribe. One easy way to get us is Spotify. If some of you guys are not on there, if you have Android platform, that's a good way to go. So we've been recommending that. You can also catch us on our YouTube channel, 5 Reasons YouTube. Just type that in, and you will get all of our episodes on there. So if you're sitting at your computer or you have the app, that's a great way to go. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for listening to the 5 on the Floor on the 5 Reasons Sports Network.